Lawrence-Dumont Stadium is located along McLean Boulevard, west of the Arkansas River in Wichita, Kansas. Built in 1935, the stadium holds nearly 6,500 fans and is currently used for concerts and community events, is the home of the Wichita Wingnuts and the National Baseball Congress World Series. Before moving to its current location in Omaha, Nebraska, the College World Series was played at Lawrence-Dumont in 1949. That year, the Texas Longhorns won the title. The stadium was the home field for the Wichita Indians from 1950 to 1955, the Wichita Arrows from 1970 to 1984, the Wichita Pilots from 1987 to 1988, and the Wichita Wranglers from 1989 to 2007. The stadium's two namesakes are Robert E. Lawrence, former mayor of Wichita who pushed for stadium construction approval, and Ray Hap Dumont, considered to be one of the best promoters and innovators in the history of baseball. Before these two pioneers brought baseball to the Delano district, it was prohibited within the city limits. To get around this law, Ackerman Island Stadium was built on the Arkansas River just south of the Douglas Street Bridge. This stadium burned down in 1934, tragically paving the way for Lawrence-Dumont Stadium to be built. As you walk around the stadium, you can feel the nostalgia and rich history of the ballpark. From the dedication plaques, just inside the main entrance, to the classic concession stands, and on to the player banners around the stadium concourse. It's easy to see that Lawrence-Dumont Stadium is truly an American treasure. To explain some of the stadium's historical significance, we brought in a former general manager.
My name is Steve Schad. I was general manager of the National Baseball Congress and the Wichita Wranglers from 1987 to 2004.
Steve Schad was the Texas League Executive of the Year in 1990 while serving as general manager and vice president of both the NBC World Series and the Wichita Wranglers.
Well, the fact that it was built for the National Baseball Congress and that organization is still alive after, 85 years, then I think that it's got a lot of history through the National Baseball Congress and all the pro teams who played here. But, Island Park was the stadium before Lawrence-Dumont, and it burned down because a fan left a cigarette in the stands. It was a wooden facility. And it burned down, and they built, in less than a year, they built Lawrence-Dumont Stadium to host the National Baseball Congress. I think that's very unique, and the fact that it's withstood the test of time. I'll have mixed feelings if they demolish this stadium and build a new one, because this one has so much history that I kind of hate to see them tear it down. On the other hand, I can tell that this is a grand old lady, and it may need more than just a facelift.
The National Baseball Congress World Series was first played in 1935 and was the brainchild of Hap Dumont, who had created a state tournament in 1931 that was played on Ackerman Island. To ensure its success from the beginning, he offered Satchel Paige and his Bismarck, North Dakota team $1,000 to travel to and play in the tournament. Not only did he make the trip, but he struck out 60 batters in the tournament and won a long-standing record 4 games in that same tournament.
Well, I came down here maybe like you did. I came down here for a late game about 1 in the morning after the bars were closing. Then I came down here and watched late night NBC, and I was amazed at how many fans were down here at 1 o'clock in the morning watching baseball, and the fact that they could just be playing baseball still at 1 o'clock in the morning. I kind of fell in love with the NBC at that point.
Over the past 8 decades, hundreds of future professional players have played in the NBC tournament. In the beginning, the teams ranged from factory-sponsored teams to military installation teams, and even included semi-pro clubs or teams with former professional stars. While the military and factory teams no longer play in the tournament, we continue to see high-quality baseball from around the region as semi-pro teams and former pros travel to play in the series.
Well, during the National Baseball Congress, I would say John Olerud out of Washington State, and then he went on to play quite a few years in the major leagues, primarily with Toronto. But he hit 2 doubles, a triple, two home runs, a triple and a double in the same game, and set the record in the NBC for most base hits in one game. And he was just one of the very few players I saw with the National Baseball Congress. You could just watch him and tell that he's going to make the major leagues. And he did. And then I'd say Andy Bennis on the pro side, a pitcher. In 1987, Bennis went on to a long career with the San Diego Padres, but he had 18 strikeouts in his last game here. And the Padres announced it would be his last game, which is very rare. Usually they wait until after the game to make that announcement. But they announced it, and we had the famous chicken on the same night. It's the largest crowd we ever had here, over 8,000 people, and this place only holds 6,500. We had them stacked in the Hardball Cafe, 7 or 8 deep. And so Andy Bennis was one of my favorite players. Also Mike Sweeney and Johnny Damon. Probably my favorite memory would be 1992 when we won the Texas League Championship the first time. We had Dwayne Hosey, Billy Hall, and J.D. Nolan, all really great players. Billy Hall was a WSU graduate and was very fast on the bases and a good hitter, switch hitter. And Dwayne Hosey was a big home run hitty. And J.D. Nolan led the minors in stolen bases the year before. So A, we had a very exciting team, and B, it was my first championship, and we had a roll celebration afterwards. It was great. Sitting right near where we believe ghosts have been, all right? There's been 3. There's actually been, Hap Dumont died at his desk in the stadium. We had an umpire drop dead at home plate. We've had 2 former groundskeepers have their ashes spread on the outfield. And out of those 4, then one of them is a ghost that haunts the stadium. They had the cake marathon start and finish in the stadium one year. We were down here about 6 in the morning setting up for it. It was an 8 o'clock start. We were down there about 6 o'clock. And I had the microphone with me, and we had the sound on. I was down doing a test on the mic, and we heard, with the microphone in my hand, we heard, "Turn the sound down," in a very deep voice. So we thought, well, someone's up in the sound room. Let's go to find that out. So Robert Swatter and I went up to the sound room, and the mic was in the sound room, and I had the other mic in my hand, and we heard it again, "Turn the sound down." And we're convinced that was Hap Dumont telling us we're playing the sound too loud at 6 o'clock in the morning for the neighbors. And we had a paranormal group come out to the stadium, and they tested the whole stadium, and they were up in the skybox, and while they were up there doing tests, then the lights went on and off. Well, the one with the sound convinced me there's something there, because there's no other way for the sound to come across. We had both mics.
Stories of the ballpark being haunted have surfaced frequently since Hap Dumont's death in 1971. He suffered a heart attack at his desk, and rumor has it that he returns to work on occasion. From hearing jingling keys and smelling odd things, to hearing voices and feeling like someone is watching you, you can find it all at Lawrence-Dumont Stadium. According to a Cake News report, interns at the stadium are taught about Hap's presence. Apparently, you don't have to go far to find someone in the front office who believes Hap still roams the stadium. Whether you believe the stadium is haunted or not, you won't be disappointed in the atmosphere when you visit the ballpark to enjoy a hot dog, nachos, and some good Wingnuts baseball this summer.